So these little faces represent our reason for being at PathFinders. They are the most vulnerable and unsupported children in Hong Kong, and they sit at the heart of everything that we do. We exist to ensure that they are protected and respected, and to empower their mothers to find a bright path to a future in which they can survive and thrive. Every case we support at PathFinders is unique, but ensuring every child receives a fair start in life is universal. Foreign domestic workers are a critical source of support for many households in Hong Kong, and particularly those with young children like myself and elderly relatives. Despite legal protections, once a pregnancy is announced or discovered, many of these expectant mothers are unlawfully fired, pressured to leave or resign because they and their employers simply don't know what else to do. A pregnant foreign domestic worker faces substantial hardships when her employment is terminated. She immediately becomes homeless, and within 2 weeks, when her working visa expires, she loses access to public welfare and healthcare services which are vital for prenatal screening. Every day at PathFinders, we're dealing with preventable crisis. Headlines like these reinforce just how much more we need to do to prevent tragic and completely unnecessary infant deaths. Due to a fear of losing their jobs, many pregnant domestic workers try to conceal their pregnancy. Without seeking help, some end up having very risky, unassisted home births. Others resort to illegal abortions, dumping their fetuses in trash or public bathrooms. Hong Kong currently employs 390,000 foreign domestic workers, with the number forecast to increase to over 600,000 by 2047 to help care for an aging population in Hong Kong. Our fear at PathFinders is that without fundamental systemic change, the problems that we tackle will likely escalate, and we'll only see more and more headlines like these. Since 2008, we've served over 7,000 babies, children and women. We provide child protection, counselling, shelter, food, health, education and legal support. To try and prevent crisis, we also have empowered and educated over 62,000 people with greater awareness and understanding about maternity protections and obligations. Our ambition by 2030 is for PathFinders no longer to be needed, that every pregnant foreign domestic worker is able to maintain her employment, ensuring access to public services and 10 weeks of maternity leave. This would allow her to establish a stable and sustainable future for her child before returning to work. Many of the foreign domestic workers coming to Hong Kong are women of childbearing age, but coming from poor backgrounds, many of them lack reproductive health knowledge and a healthy perception towards love and relationships. By equipping foreign domestic workers with adequate knowledge on maternity protection and the importance of making well-informed decisions whilst they're working in Hong Kong, we're seeking to try and ensure every child born can receive a fair start in life and a well-planned future. Currently, challenges like the legal requirement for a foreign domestic worker to live in during her maternity leave, as well as a lack of affordable solutions for employers to cover the time that she's on maternity leave, contribute to a potential crisis. So we're also focusing on trying to influence systemic and policy change on key issues like these for the benefit of all stakeholders, the worker, the employer, and most importantly, the unborn child. So in terms of how we're responding in this current environment, we're trying to pivot towards a new normal. This is a survey that we conducted last week with our beneficiaries to try and identify and respond to any gaps and needs that they're currently facing. Thanks to the wonderful generosity of our supporters, we've been able to ensure many of our beneficiaries have the protection items that they need, such as masks and hand sanitizers. But like many in Hong Kong, access to food is a key challenge for our beneficiaries. We're actively trying to find solutions and increasingly grateful to partners like Feeding Hong Kong for their help and support. In addition, essential items like milk and diapers are also greatly needed. On delivering our services, we're also facing very significant challenges on multiple fronts. And the PathFinders team has been wonderfully creative and very can-do in finding new ways to connect with and meet the needs of our beneficiaries through video calls and online outreach. Our social workers are still going into the community and supporting with appointments within the hospitals. However, limited shelter options, increasing costs of food, the inability for some of our mothers to fly home, the cost of airline tickets for those returning home, the closure of courts so we can't progress some legal matters that need assistance have created numerous challenges. And on top of this, in the face of all of this challenge, our single biggest challenge at the minute is fundraising. Despite tightening our belts and cutting our annual budget by 25% since the beginning of the year, increasing costs and an inability to hold our annual fundraising dinner, which accounts for 30% of our annual income, is a huge challenge.